everyone, I'm Rachel Ray, and this is I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. This is a podcast about drive, what fuels people that love hard work, and what we can learn from one another. I'm excited for everyone to join me for conversations with people I know and people I want to know better. Welcome to I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. Today, I have someone that I hope I can truly call friend. He's visiting with us here in Tuscany. Jeremy Sisto is here today. And there's so many of his projects that I love. My husband, his favorite is 6 Feet Under. I spend all of my days writing, which are many, for hours and hours and hours in the kitchen and cooking, of course. But my best friend in the kitchen are Law and Order episodes. And it's so freaky to have Jeremy, who I've known for years now. He's been a guest on our show many, many times at the daytime show. It's so weird to have him actually in the kitchen and to hear his voice live because
we were watching one yesterday.
Yes,
that was
it's
surreal.
so weird. It's so trippy. And he's like, oh yeah, this is and then I would finish the sentence. It's the episode with the yada yada, with the yada yada and the da da da.
Yeah. No, I had no idea what the episode was about, but you informed me exactly what happened. So you know my scripts better than me. It's also a different time. That was why it was so surreal watching it. That's, when you watch it is something you were on, it brings back all the things that were going on in your life at that time.
It's a time machine, right, for the rest of your life. When you have the gift, I think it's a gift, when you have the gift of being employed for a long time at whatever you love to do, cooking, acting, you're in politics, you're in whatever, the longer you can make your run, the more kind of patchwork quilt it becomes for me. Like I start to understand so much more about myself and about life the longer I do my jobs. I mean, I have a couple of jobs, but the longer I do them, the more I learn about myself. Do you find that that's true?
For sure, yeah. Life changes you. I mean, also the nature of work and what you put into it and why, or I'll speak for myself, the meaning that it holds and has held for me has changed over the years. When I was young, pursuing acting and my sort of reverence of movies and how important I thought they were, how profound I thought the movies that affected me were socially in the world, made it a very almost impossible mission. But it was, ambition, especially in my 20s, but throughout my life has been something that I have relied on to be there when other things were confusing me, and I think that's one way to use ambition. And it's changed over the years. I mean, at present, I'm just so grateful to be working. I'm grateful there is a job that pays me that utilizes whatever this weird thing is that I feel like I can bring something to, because acting is in many realities would be considered not a real job. But in our present reality, there's a position that you can hold wherein if you enjoy having the spotlight on you while you're trying to work through something emotionally or mentally or whatever that is that makes it fun for me. The fact that exists and that I happen to be lucky enough to have that, I see you contend with this in a really positive way. And I try to as well. When you are working in any situation, you're surrounded by people. I mean, I suppose not all work is like that, but definitely in mine, we're surrounded by people all the time. So how do you make the environment positive for everyone around you while still protecting your own space to be able to do what you need to do? Has that changed for you over the years? Your ability to what you need to get into your headspace and how you need to treat people around you? Do those things ever overlap?
I've been working in kitchens, off the books since I was 12, but since I was on my mom's hip when I was 2 or 3, I always feel better after a day's work. Whether it was on someone's hip or standing next to them or washing dishes, I always felt good about myself if I knew I contributed in some way that day and I learned something that day. It's always been very hard for me to be noticed, which is weird, but to make TV or go to public things has always been very, very challenging to me and the toughest part of it. But I love to work. I really love it. I like to write at 4:00 in the morning. I like to work as long as we need to make something feel fun and right. And I like to stand up for myself. I'm sure my husband and anybody that works with me wishes I did less of that, but I like to say, no, we shouldn't do that. That looks fake, or we should do this way or that way. When you're working after all these shows and all these years, do you say things once in a while on set or to directors directors or producers and say, you know what, that doesn't feel right? How much do you get involved in the process?
Yeah, I mean, the problem, I guess, for me is with that question of, first of all, I want everyone around me to feel like it's a fun situation, like this is their space too. But with the director, and it goes true with the director, we have visiting directors. If it's not the director that is also the producer that's there throughout the season, you have visiting directors, and you want them to feel like creatively involved. But there's a lot of, for acting for me anyway, there's a lot of ways for me to suddenly get in my head, and that will interfere with me not feeling free, not feeling safe. I can get insecure really quickly, and then I start sweating and my brain doesn't work right. So I'm not somebody that likes to talk about things a lot. Some actors really do like to do that. I'm also very cognizant of people sitting around waiting, and we have a lot to get to. It's TV, so we're trying to get a lot of pages done. But some actors and directors, they like to talk it all out. I suppose I could be okay with that, but for me, I mean, if we're not filming, if we discover something in a conversation, that's kind of a bummer. Like, as soon as there's an idea that I'm like, okay, yeah, I think you gave me a thought right there, but I don't want to think about it too much, because the only way it's going to be really good is if I actually discover it while the camera's rolling. So there's a level. And then, I also see things, how they're cut together. And so when it's involving other actors, I do try to sort of move things around so that we make sure that everyone gets multiple versions that they can use. So I try to be how I think, as efficient as possible, getting as much as we can in the can. Sometimes that means moving things around in a way that other people are like, what exactly are we doing here? But I can see that this is actually going to be better once they get in the editing room. And so, yeah, so that's a long-winded answer.
We talked about this too a couple nights ago at supper. I don't like watching myself at all. It makes me very, very nervous and self-conscious, and I can't handle it. But you told me how much you learned once you got over that for yourself, and you could watch yourself back a bit. And you were like, oh, now I understand all the other pieces to this puzzle. Can you talk about that? I think that for a lot of people, whatever business you work in, once you see what all of the folks do around you within your world, whether it's medicine or space science or acting or cooking or whatever, when you see what all the folks have to do that are your satellites, how did that change your career and your direction?
Yeah. Well, it was just when I was young, when I started out, I was suddenly getting paid money, and it was a very hard job to get, and I would get it from these auditions in which I couldn't really even remember what happened exactly. So I definitely had an imposter syndrome, and I would do all this work, this homework, and that I was learning in these classes, and then I show up and I do the scene, and when you're doing the scene, there's all these other things happening. You have to hit these marks and do this thing, and it became very clear to me that I didn't really know how to judge it from being within it. I was like, am I feeling the right thing? Are you judging your feelings? What's coming out of my face? And there's some performances where I'm just like flexing my face because I really wanted you to see that I'm like feeling. And then, I started watching, and there was a story I told you guys last night when I was fairly young. I heard the story about Timothy Hutton, who won the Academy Award for Ordinary People when he was young, and I thought it was an amazing performance. And then I heard that one of the scenes that was so amazing, he was staring out the window, just struggling with all the stuff going on. And the take they used was when Robert Redford said, just look out the window and count to 20 in your head. And as I started to watch the thing, I don't know if the story is true or not, but I heard it from a friend. But it's true that when I watched the thing, I remember the first scene that I was like, thought really worked well, that I watched of myself, I really wasn't doing anything at all. And I was like, it's the most effective because of whatever. And so then my kind of technique, or whatever, if you want to call it that, became much more about, okay, how do I get out of my own way?
That's great advice. How do you get out of your own way? What's the first thing that was a driver for you? I mean, you started so young. You were in films at 16. What was the first thing that said, I could try and do this. I could be this. I can close my eyes and see this. What was an inspiration or a driving force for you at the get-go? And what is it today?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think when I was young, I wasn't able to think too far in the future. But largely it was, I'd been doing it since I was young, doing plays and stuff, because my mom was a single mom and she was doing commercials, and that's kind of what she did when I was growing up. And so we were just around it. And then I got a movie when I was 16. And honestly, I wasn't very good at school at the time. I probably had some undiagnosed sort of ADHD or learning stuff, you'd call it now. But for whatever reason, I had a real difficulty focusing on school and succeeding in school. And I was in a rock band and I loved that, and plays, made sense to me. So I really entered the world being like, I don't know what else I do. I couldn't really figure out what else I would do. So I had a lot of pressure in the beginning. I was like, I have this amazing opportunity, but I got no backup plan. And so again, that's for the type of person I am, that's not a good recipe for being free. And so if you have and a lot of actors, I think, that have some kind of a thing to fall back on, you're able to fail a little more safely. But yeah, I was on the path. And as any actor, I'm sure we go through phases where you're like, I might have already had at the end of every job, you're like, I might have had my last job here. And so now you're just kind of convincing yourself that I need to be in this. So for me, it was always in between any job, I would be doing little small plays or one-man shows, or just kind of proving to myself that I was in this for the right reasons. I would almost be more impressed with myself if I'd gotten into something else, something more traditional, and did that. I'd be like, wow, how did you come up with this idea? Because I just don't come from that kind of traditional outlook. My dad's a jazz musician, my mom's an actress, and I just came from that, I suppose. And just the idea of what to do with your time was more about creating things. That's kind of what made sense to me.
I love that. And that your dad is a jazz musician and you love music so much. The time we're at our home, we're here in Tuscany. We're sitting in my husband's studio, and Jeremy and John have spent time in here over the last couple of days. They've been working on a song of Jeremy's for a few days.
Both of our songs, we wrote it together.
That's beautiful. But can you talk about, my husband wanted to go to Berkeley and be Trent Reznor, and he ended up a lawyer, but he's still a working musician. And I know how much that means to him. But it's also a bit of a heartbreak for him because he really feels like he could have been Trent Reznor. He'll call me from the road when he's on tour with one band or another, and he'll say, I just wish I was the headliner. I wish I was up there tonight. How much does music... I just saw him playing on your telephone, a clip from his show last night, and he plays a couple of instruments, and as do you. You play the piano, you play the guitar. How much does music bring to your life? And it's not your primary job, it's not your primary source of income, but how does it fill out your life?
Yeah, no, it's a pretty big part of my life right now. A couple of years ago, I was realizing that my wife and I, now that the kids were getting older, it wasn't great that we didn't do a lot of things together. Like, our hobbies were separate. So I was like, we need to find something together. So I convinced her to do this adult program at School of Rock with me. And we don't do it anymore, but now we play in a band together. So she's a drummer.
Oh, that's amazing.
So that's become a really fun thing in my life.
What does she play?
And drums, yeah. She's back there keeping it down. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. So yeah, I'm about to put out a song, and she's on the video playing drums. And so yeah, I mean, I've
Go Addie!
Yeah, it's pretty cool. When I was young, I was a singer in the band, and I loved to emote, vocally. I've always loved melodies and stuff like that. But I'd never worked at music really. In the last 4 or 5 years, I've worked at music more, and so that's become really gratifying. I wish I had started it much younger, but that's the thing about acting, especially back then. I'm not sure how it feels now, but if you have an opportunity to do that, it's kind of a mysterious thing, because you just see these movies cut together and you're like, I guess I want to do that experience. And it's not at all like it seems, but having the opportunity to chase something like that, to me, was kind of a no-brainer. Especially because I didn't really understand what it was. If I'd really known what it was entailed, I guess I still would do it, honestly. But I would have approached it a little differently. But your question was about music. And yeah, I mean, I love music. My dad's a jazz musician. I didn't grow up with him. And I probably felt always a little like that wasn't my thing. I couldn't be in that world. Jazz is a pretty, it's like a tight little thing. It's a little snooty.
It's a specific community and a specific way.
It's just a feeling of like, you can't really understand this. This isn't for you. You can enjoy it from afar unless you really, and that's not actually the case, but for some reason I kind of grew up feeling a bit of a distance to it. But music itself has always been, I became a man at Rolling Stones concerts. I had experienced my first real sense of freedom and possibility listening to rock bands. It's something I love to do. I'm really happy is a part of my life. It's strange though. It's my kids are listening to different kinds of music and trying to keep up with what music is becoming is always challenging as you get older, I suppose.
And what does Charlie listen to? What does your daughter listen to?
She actually has some pretty good taste. She's gotten into like sort of songwriter thing, which is kind of something that I was always into. It's the younger guy, Noah Khan and these kind of guys. But also she'll pop in some stuff that I used to love, and she'll be like, how do you know this? And I'm like, how do you know this? There's a lot of that. She gets into some 80s stuff. She's got actually really good taste. Unfortunately, she used to play drums and piano and sing, and she dropped it when we moved to the suburbs, I feel like.
Well, she'll go back. She has it.
I hope, man. I hope.
She has
She's
it.
stubborn.
If she has it, she'll go back.
She's going to regret it later, I tell her. Like, everyone's mad when they don't know an instrument when their childhood is over, because it's so much harder to bring it in when you're an adult.
Well, Sean Pelton is the one who tried to teach me. He taught me my first couple of drum lessons on AC/DC. And I still think I'm going to spend my probably 60s beyond a drum kit because it'll bring me back to life a little.
For sure. Yeah, that's definitely a dream as I get older. I mean, that's why I've studied music more kind of deeply these last 5 years, because especially with jazz, but all music, it's an endless vat of knowledge that you'll never get to the bottom of. What's a better thing to be studying as you get into your later years? You know, you want to be delving into the abyss, the endless.
And you're younger than us. You're going to turn 50 soon. John and I passed 50 a while ago. He's a year older than I am, but we're both over 50. Do you care about age? Does that freak you out? You're going to be 50 or you just don't care?
Yeah, for sure. It freaks me out. More so just the actual aging in the body and that stuff. Yeah, no, it's tough. It sucks. I hate it. I hate it. But I don't know. I feel like I feel like I've been fighting it for a while, but there is a stage that happens, that's coming, that will make it worthwhile, make it feel like, oh no, this is why it's maybe not better, but this is why it makes sense. I think it's all about that ego thing, you know. As you get older,
life makes more sense. I can tell you from the other side. Life makes more sense. You get sciatica and you have to buy stronger glasses, but life makes more sense. My friend and my business partner, Brian Flanagan, turned 50 just yesterday, and I wrote him and I said, how's the sciatica this morning? Because that's when everything, as John says, just starts breaking down, man, leaves you by the road.
I was looking for canes while I was over here. I've been looking for a cane because my knee, I got a new knee thing. So cool. I mean, I feel like that's the other side. You get to have a cane. When I was young, there was always some club promoter that had a cool cane that didn't need it. But now I've earned my cane.
You've earned the cane, babe. Look, my only answer to this is I rarely know what day it is, what year it is, what time it is. I just like to get up and work. I really do. And what's the alternative? I mean, think about it. You're either alive or you're dead. So I really don't care what age I am. I just like,
I will say, like,
being alive.
In the conversation of working, it's like, it is pretty tricky for me when I have a lot of time off.
Oh, I hate time off.
Yeah, idle time is tricky. You really have to be able to manage the time in a different way. So it's a relief when I'm working, because you know what you're supposed to go to, what you're supposed to do. There's a freedom to it. It's like the blues, you know? That's
such a great point. That's a beautiful point. I am not good if I literally have nothing to do. I mean, I'm here in Italy, but I just finished working very hard all work week. And now I'm having a fun day hanging out with you. And we're going to go play some bocce in a little bit. We're going to bring it on the bocce court.
Start the bocce rumor about me. I told you about my bocce rumor for years, though, right?
You tell the story.
Well, for years, it was, I don't know if it was on Wikipedia or what, but it said I came from the professional bocce ball world. And so every interviewer, that they would find that and they would like start researching bocce ball, and they'd sit down and be like, so, and they'd say some fancy bocce ball thing. And I'm like, I'm sorry, buddy, it's not true. Although I should have committed to it, because that's a pretty interesting pre-acting career. But yeah, I'm going to go show you. Maybe I do have some serious bocce skills dormant.
We're having a bocce pizza party tonight. Exactly. So we'll see how that turns out. But you have been working here in the studio with John. Are you happy with what you guys have been doing here?
Yeah, it's cool. It's what I love about, I've been writing and reporting with people more than I have, like a variety of people. And I love it because, you know, you try to come together on an idea and a tone. We have different sort of just moods that we're playing with, and you find this thing together. And yeah, the thing that I think we came up with is a really interesting combination of our two energies. And so, yeah, I'm excited about it.
How many instruments do you play? I know you play the piano and the guitar. Is that it, or?
Just basically the guitar. I mean, I can play bass and I can play a little piano, a little drums, but but basically it's the guitar, yeah.
Well, you could play the piano. I saw you at the Fazioli. You had the beautiful grand piano.
It's a beautiful piano you have, yeah. My dad's a piano player. Yeah, I love the piano. I wish I played it more. That's one that my 60s, I feel like, is my piano decade, hopefully.
That's when you're going to get
it,
really deep dive into it. Now, what are you doing beyond the small and big screens? Everything that everyone loves. As you know, you're my companion in the kitchen with Law & Order. You're on FBI. You really have good taste in getting projects that can hang in there, dude. Lucky. Well, it's not luck. It's work. I really think that's work and dedication.
I have a lot that didn't survive, though. This one had a good shot because it was Dick Wolf. He was starting a big thing off.
Talk about that. How much is work and how much is luck?
Oh, it's 90% luck and 10% hard work, in my opinion. But that's a bit overmuch. But I think luck is just such a part of life. Even it was for acting, especially what your voice sounds like, what your face looks like, that stuff you can't choose. But in life in general, just there's how your brain works, how the chemistry works. There is so much luck involved to everything that happens to you. So, but that said, how you treat people is huge to me. How you treat people is huge. It feels great to have some kind of understanding or talent at something that you feel like you've put a lot of time into. And if nothing else, I've done that with acting. I mean, I came from a time when, there was so many independent movies being made that my life was just one little independent after another that didn't go anywhere, but was a chance for me to just work and get through, try to figure out what this thing meant for me. So that was a great opportunity. I was in a time where that happened. I don't think that really exists in the same way as it used to. So I come from a time of like just work and find meaning through that. So I think that you can make smart choices. I've made some smart choices and some not so smart choices, but a lot of the pilots I've done or movies that I thought were going to mean something ended up not. But fortunately, some of the choices I've made and some of the things that have chosen me have gone really well. And so,
what's so great is John and I are in our mid 50s, and a lot of my crew or people I know are much younger than that. And they're like, Jeremy, you mean like from Clueless?
Right.
It's just the biggest thing in the world to them, right? When it is a great movie, when people come up to you, what is it that they notice the most? And do you have a favorite? I mean, you've had so many long runs and so many successes. Is there something where you're like, wow, I think that may be the thing I'm most proud of so far?
Yeah, well, those two questions. The first one is like, what do you get most? And I try to guess when somebody's coming up to me with that look of, I recognize you, because there's age, type, but also like the look in their eyes. You know what I mean? Like 20-something came up to me the other day and had this look in his eye. And I was like, what this is? And it was because he used to watch this show, Spurgatory, when it was on with his mom when he was like 13, 14. So like, if that's the kind of thing you want, it's obviously Clueless. The people that come up with that have this like giddy look, kind of embarrassed, kind of fun. So I can check that. The Law and Order people are usually I can just tell their look. I'm not sure what it is about their look. They're just, it's something very specific. Also, I went to like a little arty town in upstate New York last week, and like two separate people recognized me for these strange little independent movies that, have a following, but those are always a nice surprise. I mean, when you've done as many things as I have, the majority of it is a few different things, but it's the beautiful thing about art. You'll also put all this stuff out, and at some point, sometimes somebody will find something at a moment in their life that makes it kind of significant for them. And the second part of the question is, it's hard to say like a favorite thing. I always say 6 Feet Under because that was a super special time in the beginning of creative movement, this quality TV of character studying. Yeah. But it's hard. It's very hard for me to like separate that project from being 27, 28, 29 in my life. Like I was a different person at that time. So I see that that's a big part of also why that means.
That's John's favorite.
Yeah, no, it's probably, in some ways, it's my favorite too, because it's the kind of thing I like to watch. Things that are kind of a little too honest, showing flaws of people, not desperate to entertain, just like human beings. Like watch this human observational stuff and see what it does to your view of the world, or see if it connects to your view of the world. It's stuff that's very bold to do. And Alan Ball at the time had just won an Oscar, and, his decision to kind of like try to do something like that was inspiring. And yeah, that was exciting. But, obviously Dick Wolf has been an amazing, this thing I'm on right now is, I find it super gratifying. It's continuing to evolve. It's got this avid audience. Having something with an audience is lovely. You know what I mean? Because you see people all the time who are like, oh, you're my Tuesday nights. And that feels great. You feel like, okay, I'm contributing something to this person's week. That's really nice. And I love the character. I love what the writers do with it. And so I'm really happy with my job right now.
And you love that he works primarily in one room.
I like that. I like the one room
that he's such an integral part of the show, but he could do it
from one room. Then it makes it all about me. I've got to bring it. There's no background. You've seen all this stuff before, so it's like, what can I bring it?
No, but you can bring so much from a small space, and it gets you out of work a little earlier because it's not on location. I only met Dick Wolf one time in my life, and he was so gracious and spoke to me for a couple minutes. But you did an impression of him last night, and I'm like, yep. That's Dick Wolf. I mean, a flattering one. How nice he is when he's speaking to you.
Yeah, and he just, at the end of his speeches, he's always like, this is such an important project, now don't fuck it up. That's like his thing. That's Dick Wolf. Yeah, no, he's amazing. He's amazing. He really is such a smart. I've spent a lot of time with him over the years, usually at dinners or in Monte Carlo, there's a TV festival. And I've kind of spent time with him during the end of Law & Order, the last few seasons of Law & Order, and the beginning of his new franchise. And so some kind of significant points in his professional career. And he's got exactly what you want a person in that position to have. Like, you respect the hell out of him. He's never, but the things he says are also grounded down to earth. It's not like he's doing it for this power. I mean, obviously everyone around him is showing him the ultimate respect, but that's not like what he's doing it for. He's very grounded. And so, yeah, it's been nice to spend time with him and to be part of his projects for sure.
So what's going to be next in addition to FBI and what you're doing? What are you looking forward to in the next decade of your life? You're about to turn 50. What are you looking forward to trying or exploring or developing as you move forward? I think that's really important to people always say, what are you going to get done in the next 10 years? Or when are you going to have a kid? I'm like, never. But, I never know how to answer stuff like that personally. I kind of let things try and grow organically. What are your thoughts about what do you want to try and achieve next? Are you a person that sets short-term goals or long-term goals?
Yeah, I mean, there's only a couple months off each year as far as that I can work, but I do have a film that we're putting together that has a really cool cast. It's a really interesting film that I think could be great. So I can't talk about it yet, probably not, because that's bad luck or something. I do have stuff. I've become a little less. For years, I always had 5-6 projects that I just had a show that I had written with 2 other guys that was at Netflix for 6 years or something, and it just finally got killed. And this is a moment in this kind of medium, or whatever, film, TV, that I'm a little not certain where it's going. I feel like some kind of creative revolution needs to happen within it. And I feel like we're on the verge of finding out what that is, but I don't really know. So I always have a bundle of ideas that I think, could be great shows if I wanted to it's just so much time to put into it. And my kids are now 15 and 12, so I guess I have the time now.
You'll get more and more time.
I just don't know exactly where to focus that energy. I don't want to waste a bunch. I feel like I've done that a lot. Not that it was a waste. I've loved developing things, but not really interested in going and getting on this rat race of like trying to get things happening. For me, it's more about what I can create within me, whether it's music or scripts or just living what I do also with the volunteering stuff and kind of like what else I can provide and offer. I don't know. I'm not sure. Right now I'm an open book. I'm about to turn 50. And once I turn 50, everything's going to make sense is what I hear.
Yeah, I would agree with that, I have to say.
On the 50th birthday, you said though, right?
Well, you know my life. I found a lot of focus after I turned 50. And I think that's a cool thing. It really is. And you get more settled and you find the time to do things that really matter to you. So that's all I have to say about that. So we're going to go play bocce soon. I'm excited to see your performance there. I hear you're pretty good at the poker table, though. I know you're part of the Crewed Up poker game. Of course, you guys go way back to Without Limits. I love his brother, Tommy. How good are you at the poker table, and how much money have you taken from them?
Yeah, we've played a few. I love their game because they play tournaments. I'm much better at tournaments. I mean, listen, when I come from the era, what was it, late 90s, early 2000s, where suddenly poker became this huge thing. So you'd go to these like celebrity parties and there'd be the young stars and then these like poker players that have some different kind of edge to them. And so there was all these celebrity poker tournaments, and I used to play a lot with my friends. I think poker is a great game. It's a really nice combination of luck and skill. That's how you look at a game. How much luck versus how much skill.
And that's life, right? We were just talking about it. That's
exactly.
life and your career.
Yeah, yep. I would say poker is a little like that. Sometimes you can make poker's a little like life. Sometimes you can make the perfect move and it doesn't work out, and sometimes you make a stupid move and it does work out. But slightly more often than not, if you make a really good move, it'll work out better than it doesn't. It's a nice combination, and also I think there's also kind of a cool quality of trying to be able to read people's minds. There's the cowboy thing of it. It was fun when I was younger. When you have kids, it's difficult to like justify staying out till 4 a.m. playing cards, which you have to do in order to win. So I haven't done it much for the last 15 years, but I kind of have a secret fantasy of once they're in college, I'm just playing 60 hours of poker a week.
What's the best piece of advice, whether it came from a family member or a teacher or a coach, about work itself and the importance of always pushing forward and trying to get more work?
The best piece of advice, I mean, I guess I could only speak to, it's like I've got some young actors, some people in my life, my godson, my nephew, who are trying to be actors. And I've always been pretty bad at advising people at that part of their career. First of all, I don't think I would have had the guts to pursue something like that if I hadn't have gotten a significant project beforehand. You have to have a lot of confidence to come out and be like, I'm pretty good, check me out. It's just not something that I would have had. But I think especially with any kind of art, it's just about creating. It's just about doing more, doing. That's
more.
Kind of doing
what
more.
A great answer.
That's the only way through. Yeah.
Do more. The only way out is through. Thank you so much. We've had so much fun having you here in our home. And thank you so much for cooking chicken cacciatore. Jeremy, you've been a delight on I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. And I hope we're both alive for a really long time after now. 50's not that bad. You'll be okay.
We got some time. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm Rachel Ray, and this is I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. Keep up to date with this podcast across all social media platforms at Rachel Ray and at rachelray.com. I'll Sleep When I'm Dead is produced by Joanna Jojo Paredes, Tommy T.C. Crudup, Andrew Cappy Kaplan, me, Rach, and special shout out to my husband, John, the Kuzumano, who provides not only the music for our show, but he's been my wingman pretty much every episode of this podcast, and I'm using his studio for it. Thank you, honey. Also, we have editing help from Joel Yetten. Subscribe to this podcast on your listening site of choice, and thank you for listening to I'll Sleep When I'm Dead.